Hi, I'm Rocky from the Writing Center, and this presentation is all about paraphrasing strategies to help you avoid unintentional plagiarism. First off, you might be wondering why you should be caring about plagiarism at all. Well, the answer to that question is that plagiarism is a very serious offense in college. The consequences if you're caught start with getting an automatic 0 for the assignment, but can also lead to getting kicked out of the class or even out of the college. Most students don't really worry about plagiarism because they don't go around copying and pasting their essays off the internet. But accidental plagiarism can have those same consequences. Purdue University's online writing lab defines plagiarism as the uncredited use, both intentional and unintentional, of somebody else's words or ideas. That means that incorrect paraphrasing, incomplete citations, and other honest mistakes can still be considered plagiarism and often carry the same consequences. So, how can you avoid unintentional plagiarism? Well, the biggies are citing sources correctly, which is a topic we won't cover in this video, and paraphrasing effectively, which is what we'll spend the rest of this video working on. Paraphrasing is when you take what someone else has written or said and put it into your own words. Since the information and ideas originally come from someone else, they will still require a citation. You just won't have to use quotation marks. For example, if an original source said, "The Writing Center is a great place to visit for help with any stage of the writing process," you have two options. Either you could put that in word for word and put quotes around it with a citation at the end, which is called a direct quote, or you could paraphrase it, still putting a citation at the end, but this time without the quotes. Quoting it directly is way easier, right? But it's not really writing. Although a lot of your information will come from research, it needs to be filtered through you, the writer. In fact, it's a general rule that less than 10% of your whole essay can be in quotes. I'll say it again, less than 10%. So save that 10% for really good stuff. Save it for the quotes that sound really impressive or that fit your argument perfectly. Everything else will need to be paraphrased or summarized. Okay, so now that we've established that paraphrasing is super important, let's talk strategies. The trick is to be thinking about paraphrasing throughout your entire writing process, which starts way back at the research stage before you even start writing the essay. When you're reading an article or a book about your topic and you come across information that you think you might use in your paper, try one of these note-taking methods that help you avoid plagiarism later on. The first one we'll discuss is the fact list method. This won't be perfect for every kind of source, but if you're reading about historical events or figures, processes or procedures, or just lists of information, this is an excellent choice. The first step is to jot down a list of only the most important facts and ideas that you come across while reading your source. Each item that you put on your list can't be more than a few words long. I'd say no more than 4. Keep your notes very, very brief. After you've written your list, you have to put the original source away, no peeking, and then use that list to write your own paraphrase. The trick is that you'll use the ideas in your list, but explain or elaborate them in your own words. I'll show you an example. Let's say this is my original source. It's from an article in a scholarly journal, a psychology-related one, and this part of it is where the authors describe the procedures they used for their experiment. Since I already see that it is a procedure, I know that the fact list method would be a good choice. I also know that since it is a procedure, the most important facts or ideas will most likely be the steps in that procedure. With that in mind, I can begin reading and taking notes. I'll start with just the first sentence. Potential participants were initially sought by contacting the subject coordinators for consent to approach students during tutorial sessions. So, some big words and very formal phrasing, but I need to figure out what the most important fact or idea is. I think I'm going to put on my list, got consent/permission, since I think that's the heart of what they're saying here. You might put something different on your own list, but as long as it captures the main idea and is no more than 4 words long, you should be in good shape. For the next sentence, which says, This was followed by a small presentation at the beginning of each class or relayed by the subject coordinators, I'll just write informative class presentation. Again, everyone's list is going to end up looking slightly different. Just remember the basic rules. Capture the main idea, but use no more than 4 words. Using that note-taking method, here is my list for the entire paragraph. Now here is where step 2 is so important. Put away the original source. You can't put something into your own words when somebody else's words are glaring at you from the page. Instead, just look at your list. From that list, write down a new paraphrased paragraph. If you did your list right, it won't look the same as the original, because the ideas will be in your voice. In fact, if everyone in this class had this list, I bet no 2 paragraphs in the room would end up the same. Even though you would all be writing about the same things, you'd be saying it in a different way. Here's mine, for example. It has all the features of my own writing style. Lots of transitional words, a parenthetical note, I'm kind of obsessed with using parentheses, and much more approachable language because I'm not a scholarly psychological researcher, just a regular old English geek. Note that I still include a citation at the end because although this is in my own words, the information still came from somewhere else. Okay, that was the fact list method. The other note-taking method I want to talk about is the summary explanation method. As you can tell, I'm super creative with these names. The summary explanation method can be a good catch-all strategy for just about any kind of source, but it does involve careful reading, though honestly you should be doing that anyway. The first step is to read a good chunk of the source, at least 1 full paragraph, but preferably a few of them. Then, before you write anything down, put the source away. Once again, you have to get rid of that other voice. Once you've covered the source, or stuffed it in a folder, or at least flipped it upside down, you can either summarize it on paper from memory, or even better, explain it out loud. I prefer the latter strategy, and drove my college roommates crazy, but it is so effective. Basically, pretend that your best friend forgot to do last night's reading, and you're trying to get them up to speed before class starts. If you verbally explain your source, not only will you understand and remember it better yourself, but you'll be forced to literally put it in your own voice. You're not going to be using the same sentences that the original author wrote when you explain what you've read out loud, because that's most likely not how you speak. It's probably not even how that original author speaks. But you have to use a big chunk of information. If you just try to do this with a few sentences, you'll probably still have that original source stuck in your head. Ideally, you should even record yourself saying it out loud so that you can play back what you said and write it down afterward. Pretty much all cell phones can do this, even ancient non-smart ones. Instead of having me walk you through an example for this one, I'm going to have you guys work on it in class. On your handout, you'll see a portion of a news article. I tried to pick some interesting ones. What you need to do is read this article, don't worry it's not very long, and then use the summary/explanation method on it. That means that you need to first read it, then second, put it away or just flip it over, and then third, write down either a summary, should be about 2 to 3 sentences for the amount that you've got there, or explain it out loud to your neighbor. So, at this point, I'll let your teacher take over for a bit. Could whoever is closest to the laptop please hit pause for me? Thanks! Good work! Hopefully you're getting the hang of the whole paraphrasing thing. We're just about finished, but I want to leave you with a few last reminders. You should always double check your paraphrases against the original source after you've written them. Make sure that you've sufficiently changed both sentence structure and word choice. Also, don't forget your citations. You need them for direct quotes and paraphrases. Lastly, if you're ever worried that you haven't paraphrased correctly or you just want some more practice, talk to your teacher or a writing tutor. You have lots of resources available for avoiding plagiarism, so take advantage. Also, the best way to get better is to practice. So try taking notes using one of these methods for your next class reading. Good luck and happy paraphrasing!